All right, welcome into the Super Bowl edition of the Powers on Sports podcast. I'm your host, Jason, down in Tampa. We've got it's Super Bowl week all over the country. All the fans around the last. This is the last hurrah for NFL football. You got some XFL football coming up here in a little bit, in a couple weeks, but and it's also Valentine, the prelude to Valentine's Day. So we're gonna talk to my guests. We got a couple good guests for you. We're going to talk to Peter Blake. Peter's the host of the Evolution of Sports Talk, the Sports Web here in Tampa. My tag team partner helps me on the we co-host the No Quarter Given podcast, which is an all Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. We're also going to talk to Jim Levitt. Coach Levitt was we're going to give you the Super Bowl experience of a coach. Coach was the linebackers coach for the 49ers back in Super Bowl 47. If you remember the Harbaugh Bowl in New Orleans, the 49ers and the Ravens had some controversy. So we're gonna talk to Coach about his entire Super Bowl experience, winning the NFC title game, prep week, cool people he met at the Super Bowl pregame, halftime, just all the things that go into a Super Bowl 2-week celebration that we are about to encompass the last game of the regular season, Valentine's Day. Don't forget, next Tuesday, I know Peter Blake hasn't forgot. Don't forget whether you're a guy or girl, don't forget your significant other. Don't wait till Monday night to try to go shopping at Walmart or CVS.
I think I'll be on live that day. I've decided to go live that night because I don't have a significant other. Thanks a lot for having me on here. You start out with the Ravens and the 49ers. Who could forget that? I picked the 49ers, but Joe Flacco and that run that he had, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. Joe Montana-like. It was exciting. It came down to the very last play, and I still feel like Jim Harbaugh and Colin Kaepernick, they got screwed on that call. It should have been pass interference. They didn't call it. They swallowed the whistle.
Wait to hear what Coach Levitt had to say about that play, too. He didn't like that one bit.
It's a Crabtree. Was it a Crabtree?
Yes.
Yep.
Kaepernick to Crabtree. Yep.
I'll never forget it. And I thought San Francisco was the better team. But you know what? Ray Lewis, that defense, they got it done that night. And again, Joe Flacco was tremendous. And it was Anquan Bolden who eventually went on to be a San Francisco 49er after that game.
That's right. That's right. All right, Super Bowl. We're going to talk to Peter about the Super Bowl. We're going to get his thoughts on a couple of the quarterback situations. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr situation is going to wrap up one way or the other here in the next week or so in Las Vegas. We're going to talk a little Buccaneers as well. Quarterback, what do they do with their salary cap situation? So before we get to that, are you a Super Bowl party guy or are you a low key guy for the Super Bowl? What do you like to do?
No, of course you party. You party all day long because it's the last football game of the season. You eat chicken wings, you eat chips, you get dip, you get various finger foods, fast food all day long. You stay there, you watch the Super Bowl. If I have to work it, which sometimes I do for the Sports Web, you get paid for that. But you sit there and you dissect the game and go through all the matchups. But if I'm not, I'm definitely, absolutely partying all weekend long, eating everything I can eat. I'm putting on those LBs for the Super Bowl.
Are you staying at the house? Are you going out somewhere? What are you doing?
I don't know. I may stay at the house, because it's cheaper. You stay at the house, you can hang out with family. I like going out, but it's noisy. You never know who you're going to encounter. I've been out to other places before. It's fun, but there's just something about staying in your house, hanging out with your family, eating all kinds of bad food, saving money at the same time, and enjoying the last football game of the year.
And one of the things for me, I know for me over the years, it's been, do I have a vested interest in one of the teams? Obviously, when our Buccaneers have been in it, it's been a festive, parties, for sure, party-like atmosphere like it was in 2020. Little muted in 2020 because of the COVID and all that. You really couldn't go anywhere and all that stuff. I get it. But if you have a vested interest in one of the teams, maybe you might be a closet Philadelphia Eagles fan, or if that's your second favorite team. So for me, it kind of depends on the two teams involved. Is it a good matchup? Am I excited about the matchup? That'll determine if I decide to go somewhere for maybe half the game. Because I'm with you. I don't love to go somewhere and people are charging a cover chargers and all that stuff at these restaurants, whether it's a sports bar or whatever. those kind of things. And you have to get there so early to reserve a table. You're sitting there for 2 hours before the game starts and all that stuff. So I'm with you. I'll probably be at home on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, getting ready for this game.
I mean, if I want a significant other, you got to save your money, right? So you can't be going out to the bar on Super Bowl in case you do have somebody on that Valentine's Day. But I want to ask you, because it just passed the 2-year anniversary of the Bucs winning Super Bowl 55. What were you doing that night? Can you remember? Because I can remember I was out at the Deck Bar and Grill, and it hits you because you want to celebrate. You've watched this team since you were 8 years old. That was for me. But then you realize, you know what? I got to do a Super Bowl postgame show. So I've got to try to be unbiased, but I'm still talking about the Bucs. I don't want to be too excited, but it's like, man, I want to lose myself on the camera because it's just amazing. And it's an emotional moment. What were you doing on that night? Can you remember?
I absolutely can remember because it wasn't a great night for Jay, your boy Jay over here. So
Oh,
I was out with my lady friend. We were at Beef O'Brady's. You know where we're at, right down the street from my house. Low key, I didn't want to get out of all the because I knew obviously if you go down by the stadium, because remember the game was in Tampa.
yes.
For the fans that don't remember this, the game was the first home game for a team. You couldn't really I went out, stayed close to home, went to a Beef O'Brady's. About halftime, I started to not feel very good.
Oh no!
And it wasn't any food that I'd eaten. All of a sudden, I start not feeling great. So of course, the Bucs win the game. I'm muted. I'm not as excited as I would be because I'm not feeling good. I'm with the lady friend. I have to go to CVS on the way home because I'm really not starting to feel good now at the end of the game. I didn't go up and down Dale Mabry like everybody was celebrating. Dale Mabry partying all night long because they won the Super Bowl, obviously beating the Chiefs. I get nailed with like an 8-day viral infection. Down and out for 8 days. I am bedridden. Don't get out of my house 8 straight days. And of course, I'm thinking, okay, I have COVID because it's right in the middle of COVID.
Right.
I get tested a couple times. Don't end up having COVID. Who knows if I really did or not? I don't know. But I got tested, didn't have it. Viral infection. You talk about miserable for 8 days. Literally 8 straight days. Could not walk barely. Couldn't barely get out of bed. Sweating my what's off in my house. Just an awful 7 or 8 days.
I tell you right now, whomever gave you that, I would try to beat the hell out of them, whomever that was, because
I don't. Yeah,
God,
crazy.
that was just
bad.
That's terrible. But did you celebrate afterwards at least?
I mean, at that point, it was over. There was no more celebrating. I mean,
you can always celebrate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a Super Bowl because you never know when they're going to do it again. But man, I'm sorry for that.
It was not a good 6, 7, 8 days, man. That was one of the worst, probably the worst I've ever felt for that long of a period in my life. And I don't get sick much.
I had COVID and I felt like I was going to die. So I definitely know how you feel. I didn't have a viral infection. I actually had COVID.
All right, let's get to the action on the field. Super Bowl 57, Philly, Kansas City, Sunday night in Glendale. Talk about just give me your general thoughts of the game first, and then we'll hit a couple of matchup situations.
Well, look, at the end of the day, I really thought Cincinnati was going to win that game. Hats off to Patrick Mahomes, fighting an ankle injury, still able to throw for over 250 passing yards, not as mobile. You get enough out of your running game. You get enough out of your wide receiving threats, local kid and Marcus Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah, St. Pete kid.
Tremendous out of USF. So it's a great story at the end of the day. And, of course, they're going back there to face the Philadelphia Eagles, which at points this year I felt like was the best team in the National Football League overall because they play complementary football. Jalen Hurts could be the MVP this year. His progression from a 16-9 touchdown to interception ratio to what he is now has been tremendous. They run the ball. And on top of it, the biggest key for my game and going back to 55 is they're going to be able to get after Patrick Mahomes. If they can do that, I think they can definitely win this game. So very evenly matched teams.
Yep.
I like to see Patrick Mahomes 100%. I don't necessarily think he is. Is he in a better spot than he was in Cincinnati?
Yes, for sure.
Remains to be seen. But against that Philadelphia defense, which completely and totally dominated the San Francisco 49ers, taking Brock Purdy out there, I'm convinced that Philadelphia can win this game, but it'll be a good game.
Yep. Philadelphia's about a 1.5, 2-point favorite going into Sunday. To me, let's hit that first key first. I think you're right. I think you're right on. The Philly pass rush versus the Kansas City offensive line, and thus the mobility of Mahomes to avoid those things. That's one of Mahomes' greatest qualities is his ability to move around in the pocket, bust loose, and then create those second reaction plays with his receivers. I think if Philly can get pressure with only 4, not having to blitz 5 and 6 guys like they've led the league in sacks all year. I think 70-something sacks by that defense this year. Tremendous job by that Philly defensive line. And to me, if the Kansas City offensive line cannot hold up, it will be another long day, just like 2 years ago in Tampa.
I mean, 497 yards behind the line of scrimmage versus the Bucs, and that's the kind of pressure you want to get. And I actually think the Eagles could be actually more talented than that Bucs defense, although it's tough to say because at the time the Chiefs were missing both tackles. And I was talking to Leon Searcy the night before, and he said, look, the Bucs are going to win this because they're going to be able to get after it. And you talk about Mahomes, he's so great at improvising and making things happen. I'm not sure how well he's going to be able to do that on Sunday versus this defense, not only with his injury. Again, I think that favors the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think they can get after him with 4. They won't have to blitz. They can match up with this Kansas City offense. Now, but we're Tyreek Hill, that would be one thing. But you don't have Tyreek Hill. Maybe that's made Mahomes a better quarterback because he's able to look for other targets, and, of course, namely Travis Kelce, which, by the way, Eagles, you got to cover that guy because Mahomes is going to him.
No doubt. And again, to me, the weak link, you look at the Kansas City offensive line, would be the right tackle. Hassan Reddick has been a beast in the playoffs for the Eagles. Again, and part of this game plan is going to be, does Andy Reid keep guys in to chip him, extra running back and extra tight end to have to protect? Because if they have to keep that extra guy in, one less guy Philadelphia has to cover. And again, you got a lot of guys on that Philly defensive line. A guy we know, Sue. You got Fletcher Cox. You got Reddick. You got Brandon Graham. You got John. They rotate 8, 7, 8, 9 guys on that defensive line. You got fresh guys coming in, and all those guys can rush the passer.
And then on top of it, you look at the back end, you have Slay and James Bradbury, who's given Mike Evans and the Bucs so many years of problems, whether it was with the Carolina Panthers or the New York Giants. So you have one of the best secondaries in the league. You also have Gardner Johnson, who they traded for, who's been an
Kelce. He'll be the guy isolating Kelce a lot, I think.
That's the matchup you have to look out for, and you know that Gardner Johnson can hold his own versus tight ends because we've seen it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's an interesting matchup in itself. When you talk about Reddick, I mean, here's a guy who went from free agency from the Carolina Panthers, gets a modest deal. He's going to get paid ransom deal by the Philadelphia Eagles or somebody out there with the year that he's had.
Let's go to the Philly offense. To me, one of the keys for Philly all year long has been their balance. The run, the ability to run the ball effectively and throw the ball. You know, the big acquisition with A.J. Brown. That RPO game with Jalen Hurts being able to run the ball creates so many one-on-one matchups on the outside. And you're going to have a very young Kansas City secondary. I think 3 rookies start back there. To me, that could be, if they're stuck there one-on-one against Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown because they're having to commit more guys to the running game with Sanders and Jalen Hurts and Gainwell, that's a big problem for Kansas City.
It's a major problem, and that's what makes the Eagle offense so dangerous because they are balanced. And you talk about A.J. Brown. I mean, the reason why you pick him up in the first place is you're kind of trying to duplicate what happened with the Buffalo Bills. You get a young quarterback like a Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown who's a game breaker, who Tennessee, I don't know why they didn't want to pay him, but they didn't pay him. So good for Philadelphia. Same thing happened with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Minnesota wanted to trade him. So that's what you're looking for. You've seen the development out of Hurts, of course, him being the big story. And, of course, on the other side, who are you going to double? Are you going to double A.J. Brown? Are you going to double up on a Devontae Smith? If you don't double up on one of them, you have one-on-one coverage. And then on top of it, you have the tight end and Alex Goddard, who is a mismatch nightmare. So this is a tough matchup for this Kansas City defense.
And
coming on and playing better.
And now you have obviously the extra element of Jalen Hurts running the ball as the extra running back. And you've already got the best offensive line in football with that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. I think Kansas City, the decision they're going to have to make is, Do we commit extra guys to contain that running game? Because they're going to run the ball. Philly's running the ball. It's a matter of how long they run it. If Kansas City can keep them into 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, that makes it where they have to throw the ball a little bit. But if Philly's getting 4 or 5 yards a carry, it's going to be a long day for Kansas City.
Is your game plan, if you're Steve Spagnuolo, I think it is his name. Of course, he was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants, which shut down the perfect New England Patriots at the time. Is your game plan to force Jalen Hurts to throw from that pocket? Because I'm not sure if he can do that with that injury. He doesn't look 100%. I was talking to a guy by the name of Leo Haggerty. You're familiar with him, and he said he took a shot in that San Francisco game. Doesn't necessarily look 100%. We knew going into the playoffs that would be a big key to that Eagle offense with Jalen Hurts being 100%. Do you think he's 100%? And if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and the defense, do you force him to throw from the pocket, contain him so he can't make those plays with his feet?
The problem you have if you commit extra guys and everything's one-on-one on the outside, then you got the jump ball situation with AJ and Devontae. You're just exposing yourself. It's easy throws. If everything's one-on-one on the outside, they're easy slants, easy comebacks, they're not hard throws. So again, I know he didn't play great against San Francisco, but he didn't have to. That game was over at 21-7. The Eagles put that game in neutral at 21-7 and basically ran the clock out. San Francisco couldn't. They still ran the ball down San Francisco's throat on defense. Their defense wasn't hurt. The quarterback was hurt. They still ran for 180 yards, 200 yards against San Francisco. And I worry about that Kansas City front seven being able to stop that running game.
I tell you right now, though, Chris Jones is playing like
he is.
That's right now. Aaron Donald, I mean, he looks like Aaron Donald at this juncture, and he's played like that, and he's needed to play like that because he's galvanized this defensive line. They got after Joe Burrow. That was the big-time key. 4 sacks in that first half. I think like 5 sacks for the game. That was the difference. If they can do that to Jalen Hurts, who knows? Hurts may not be 100%. And if he does take a hit, then you got to face Gardner Minshew. And I think Kansas City would rather have that matchup. So, again, it always goes back to this. You got to have a quarterback that's able to throw the ball, make all the throws. You also have to have a defensive line that's able to get after that quarterback. And we'll see if that offensive line, which is another good matchup, that Philly offensive line has done a tremendous job all year.
Best in the league by far.
It's one of the main reasons why they're so good when it comes to being balanced and running the ball and protecting Hurts. They're going to have their work cut out for them with Jones.
It'll be interesting to see what the officiating's like. I mean, obviously we know. In all seriousness, these are the Super Bowl crew's been announced. It'll be interesting to see if they let them play, if they, again, ticky-tack holding calls. Again, those are the kind of plays when especially Philadelphia that runs the ball a lot, holding calls that negate big runs that turn into, instead of 2nd and 3, it's now 1st and 20. Those kind of situations which derail drives. So be interesting what the officiating philosophy is by this crew. Do they let them play, especially on the outside? Kansas City is going to be outmanned on the outside. Do they let those DBs get away with the grabbing and the clutching, or do they let them play? They usually have let them play in a Super Bowl the last several years, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
You're absolutely correct, and at those critical times, pass interference can be, the difference between a 3rd and 10 and basically second life and 1st and 10 or 1st and goal. At the end of the day, we saw that in Super Bowl 55, going back to that with Kansas City and Tampa Bay. But you're exactly right. And don't tell Roger Goodell that he doesn't have a problem with it because he actually think it's the best that you've ever had. And I'm like, Roger, what do you say? And I get it. That's what he's supposed to stay on the NFL State of the Union address.
He's not going to kill the referees.
Right. He's not going to. So we'll see how it plays out. It's been a big factor this year. It's been a big factor in the postseason.
We'll see.
Guess what, Jason Powers? It's going to be a big factor again. I just know it. I don't think it's a script. It is what it is. It's going to happen. Mark it down. There's going to be a controversial call in this game that's going to help a team win or change something, change the complexion, and we're going to be talking about it on Sports Talk Radio and Sports Talk Television. Watch.
And on this podcast and on your show as well.
Yep, that's right. You better believe it.
Give me a score prediction.
34-31 Philadelphia.
All right. I'm going 31-21 Philly. I think Philly, the running game is going to be too much for Kansas City. The balance that Philadelphia is going to be able to establish. And you're going to have Nick Sirianni in his second year. You and I know this. I was at the game last year. how much did the Bucs manhandle Philadelphia last year in that wild card game? How much is give Jalen Hurts credit? How much he's improved as a quarterback, and that Philadelphia team has improved from what we saw at 31-7 in Tampa in the wild card round last year.
And it seemed like there was a chip on their shoulder all year long. And, their whole purpose was to get better on the defensive line. They did that in the draft. The whole purpose was also to get better on offense with A.J. Brown. They were able to do that. And, of course, again, it goes back to Jalen Hurts. We can't talk about it enough. When a quarterback improves that much, and we saw him. He looked like a deer in headlights last year.
He did.
To now a quarterback that basically is knocking on the door at MVP talk. Yeah, that's a big-time difference. So they definitely carried that loss over. They let that motivate them, and hats off to that young coaching staff, which, again, at the end of the day, they're a direct reflection of him. Young coach, young fire. They have this energy about them. You could see him on the sidelines. That team believes in him. I think the sky is the limit for this kid.
No doubt, and he's going to get a big payday too. Because remember, he wasn't a first-round draft pick, so he's eligible to get paid this offseason. He's only got a 4-year contract. He's finishing year 3. He'll probably get in the neighborhood $180 to $200 million guaranteed contract by and the owners already come out and said we're ready to pay him. So it's not like there's any dispute like there is in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and such. And such. So, all right, let's transition. Powers on Sports podcast. Jason along with Peter Blake. Peter, promote your online content, all the good stuff you're doing.
Yeah, it says Sports Web live on YouTube. Go to the Sports Web, like and subscribe. Of course, I Love St. Pete, the Hub, and Amped Up Sports on Facebook. And do 3 things. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about.
And I know you're a big wrestling fan. Did you see the news? Jerry the King Lawler with the stroke.
I can't believe it, and he's already had a stroke, Jason Powers. He had one in 2018. The poor guy had a heart attack, and I mentioned this tonight on my Turnbuckle Talk segment on the Sports Web. He really created that storyline with the celebrity in the 80s with that whole storyline with Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
I mean, who could forget that on Saturday Night Live with David Letterman, how real it was? I mean, you don't have that. You don't have Cyndi Lauper. You don't have Mr. T. You don't have Lawrence Taylor. You don't have Mike Tyson without Jerry Lawler.
That's right.
And, of course, Andy Kaufman. So God bless him. Hopefully he gets better. Stay out of wrestling. No more wrestling matches. Hell, no more commentating. You've done enough, my friend. You're 73 years old. You're a legend. I mean, what's a better announcing team besides us, of course?
Well, of course.
You got Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. I mean, can you think of anything? Bobby the Brain Heenan, and of course Tony Schiavone. You got Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. How about Jesse Ventura and
Jesse and Gorilla?
Gorilla, yes, it's over, McMahon.
And one other passing too in the wrestling world in the last week or so. Lanny Poffo, if you don't know who that is, that's Randy Savage's brother in real life.
Yes.
Randy, that their last name was Poffo.
Yes.
Randy Savage's real brother, Lanny Poffo, who was also a wrestler for a lot of years. You remember him in the WWF? He was, what was his Leaping Lanny? Poffo was his name. He always used to read a poem. He used to read a poem and all that stuff as a wrestler. Yes. He passed away last week as well. Unexpectedly. I think he was 68, something like that.
Yeah, 67 years old.
Here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, met him. Actually have a picture of him and George the Animal Steel. And George Animal is actually choking me, which is a highlight in my life, which is crazy. I'm such a wrestling geek. But you have Lanny in the picture and George choking me. I met him. He could do a mean impression of his brother. He told me all kinds of stories. God bless that man, because he was definitely an integral part, in my opinion, in the 80s. I mean, with those gimmicks. I mean, those were far out gimmicks. It absolutely worked with the Genius and Lanny Poffo. And that
I know. There's some good wrestling talk here for the fans out there. Yeah, we don't talk a lot here, but when legends pass, we got to talk about them, because they made that business tick for a lot of years.
Yes.
All right, before we let you go, Peter, let's talk a couple quarterback situations around the league. Aaron Rodgers, obviously you got all the speculation. You saw him over the weekend at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He actually won the Pro-Am, so good for him for winning the Pro-Am. But now all the he's going on some 4-day darkness retreat and all this bull. You know what? Where do you see him? Where do you see him ending up? Staying in Green Bay, Jets, Las Vegas. A lot of chatter about the Raiders and Devontae Adams,
Right.
or potentially Tampa Bay. Where do you see it going?
He's going in a 4-day dark retreat in the house. He was trying to explain this on Pat McAfee, and I was kind of thinking, is he foreshadowing? There you go.
Dark, black.
Yeah, going to the Las Vegas Raiders, I think it's certainly a possibility. I think more of the Jets, because the Jets hired Nathaniel Hackett. He's familiar with Aaron Rodgers. He was his offensive coordinator. That would make sense. The Jets feel like they're only one player away, a la a couple years ago with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I could see more of that possibility. I don't know, man. 4 days without a cell phone, 4 days without a camera, 4 days without talking to my tag team partner in the world, Jason Powers. I don't know if I could do that. I couldn't, 4 days without Jason Powers, talking to him, having him on my show. I don't think I could do that. It's so weird. I don't know where he's going. I mean, he's like Jake Plummer all over again. I mean, the guy has,
and he could retire. He could pull the carpet out from all of us and retire.
He could pull the carpet out from under us and go out in the woods somewhere or out in the Amazon and have that halushka drink or whatever and hallucinate all about NFL career. I mean, it just reminds me of Jake Plummer. Remember when Jake Plummer went out and was hunting and he got traded to the Bucs and he refused to come back?
Smoking that weed, baby. Jake likes to smoke that weed.
I guess. And maybe Aaron does the same thing. It's just, it's too much at the end of the day. I feel like the Packers should cut their losses, see what you can get for them, and go on with Jordan Love.
I think they're going to do that.
I think they have to.
All right, let's go to Derek Carr. February 15th is the big day of note for him. Yes. The Raiders have to do something by the 15th. Either cut him, they're not keeping him, so they're either cutting him or trading him by the 15th. Yeah. There's been talk this week that he talked to the New Orleans Saints. There's been other chatter. Would he be option number 2 in New York if they don't get Aaron Rodgers? Potentially Tampa here is in the mix, because if they decide to go the veteran quarterback route, where do you see Derek Carr landing?
I like to see him with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I think he would be a perfect fit. I mean, I get it. His completion percentage went down last year to 60%. He had a high interception rate, but has this man ever been given a defense that's able to stop anybody? This guy has had multiple offensive coordinators. He's been a top 10 quarterback in this league. He's thrown for 4,000 yards. I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not done yet. They're not rebuilding. I'm not ready for Trask time. Like a lot of the fans out there, I'm not ready for a rebuild. I'm ready for a reload. I'm hoping the Bucs will wait it out like every other team, because you would be stupid to trade for him when you know basically, first and foremost, the Raiders have no value, because every team knows that if he's on that roster, it's going to cost them $40 million. So what a sweetheart of a deal that is right before Valentine's Day. You just can kiss him goodbye. Hold out.
I would trade. If you really want him and you think he's part of the solution here, especially here or New York, I'd give up a third round. There sounds like the third round draft pick is the number they're looking for. I would give up a third round draft pick to guarantee that somebody doesn't swoop in the back door and gobble him up.
I would too, but I don't think there's anybody that's going to gobble him up, because there's teams out there that know already that the Raiders have basically no leverage at this juncture. So wait it out, see what happens. Got to hire an offensive coordinator first. I don't know.
Tampa, yep.
Right. I don't know why Carr would be interested in New Orleans. Michael Thomas is a big-time cap hit. You're going to have to cut him. I get it. You have Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, who could be suspended for a long term this year because he wasn't suspended last year for the Pro Bowl incident. You don't know how that's going to work out. I get it. They have a defense. I could see Carr with the Bucs. I could see Carr with the Jets. I don't buy the Saints, but who knows? It may happen. They may trade for him. But at the end of the day, the Saints agreed to the Raiders' compensation. Now, what the heck that is, who knows?
Third round. It sounds like it was a third-round pick.
Right. But Derek Carr has all the leverage. He has to sign off on it, and he has to also sign off on a contract. So that's the problem that may hurt the Bucs and other teams out there. How much money does he want? How much money do you want to give him?
Right.
I mean, do you agree? Is this the best case scenario for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their quarterback situation?
I mean, the Bucs are in a tricky spot because they're in bad salary cap situation, like $50+ million over the cap. Right. I think you'll know probably in the next 2 weeks which way the Bucs are going to go. If they're going to go the veteran route, I'm not a proponent. Again, we'll talk more of this on the No Quarter Given podcast. We will have a new episode coming out probably late March, first weekend. I mean, February, first week of March, previewing free agency as well. The Bucs have to make a decision. Is 2023 going to be a throwaway year and reset everything salary cap wise and the roster and give Kyle Trask 1 year to see what he can do? Or are they going to stay in the try to win now mode, try to kick the can down the road, get out of the salary cap situation, try to bring in a veteran quarterback? That's going to be the interesting thing for me about what the Buccaneers do. About do you give Kyle Trask an opportunity and maybe bring in a mid-tier backup, a Sam Darnold, a Mike White kind of guy, maybe a Baker Mayfield, or do you try to land a big fish like Carr? And I've even heard Aaron Rodgers in the speculation the last week or so. You never know what happens there.
Yeah, you just never know. Maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo, if he could stay healthy, he's one of the quarterbacks.
But he can't. So I don't like Garoppolo. He can't.
I don't either. I mean,
I would not pay Jimmy Garoppolo.
Can't stay healthy. I mean, it seems like, ever since he got to the Super Bowl, it's been a decline of his health, and it's a shame because the guy is somewhat talented. He is somewhat young.
He is, but he can't stay healthy.
But he can't stay healthy. So, yeah, Sam Darnold, I wouldn't rule it out because he's very familiar with Todd Bowles. Didn't Todd Bowles draft him?
Mike White is my sleeper to come with Kyle Trask.
Baker Mayfield and Todd Monken.
But okay, and again, that's the other big key of this situation. The Bucs got to make a offensive coordinator, and I think you'll see that within the next by probably Tuesday after the Super Bowl. The Bucs will have made it have to make a move here because again that dictates which way you want to go quarterback wise potentially with what you do offensive coordinator wise. So who's your pick at offensive coordinator? Give me one. Monken.
Monken would be my favorite. I mean, I know he's got 2 interviews with Baltimore already done. I know that the Bucs are interested in bringing him back. He was the offensive coordinator in 2018. He's won 2 straight national championships. I get it. You have lots of talent, but what he's done with Stetson Bennett is intriguing. Maybe he could do the same thing with Kyle Trask if that's the way they're going to go. Better wide open offense. I mean, I think Dan Pitcher is interesting. Another interesting candidate that the Bucs have interviewed twice now. Big time development of Joe Burrow, right? And the other guy they interviewed, according to Jeremy Fowler, was Canales,
Seattle's quarterback coach.
Yep, he's had a big time part.
Geno.
30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. You turned Geno Smith into a Pro Bowl quarterback.
But he wasn't the OC now. He wasn't calling plays.
Right,
so let's be careful now.
Quarterback coach and
helped.
Right, and he's 41 years old. He's relatively young. I think it's very interesting to see some of the candidates that the Bucs are interviewing. Maybe they could be going with Trask or a young quarterback.
If the Bucs hire somebody with no play calling experience, that might tell you they might be going young. But if they bring in a guy, and then here's another name that will be available come Monday, Eric Bieniemy.
I would like to see him interview with the Bucs. He's already interviewed with Baltimore and Washington. It looks like he could be going there. How about Shane Steichen? Say that 3 times.
Shane Steichen.
Steichen? Yep. Okay, I thought it was Steichen. Steichen from Philadelphia. Would that be somebody that you could be interested in?
He might be in line for a head coaching job, maybe Arizona. Might be still in the mix there.
Wants that job at the end of the day. I mean, with Kyler Murray and all the stuff that's come out with his immaturity issues, everybody's staying away from that job for some reason. Could it be Murray?
One of 30. There's only 32 of them, brother. They ain't turning them down. See what happened to Byron Leftwich for people that turn down head coaching job offers. He's getting ready to be the OC probably at Notre Dame here coming up pretty soon. So a bad year for one Lord Byron, we know here. So, and not all his fault, but went from having an opportunity to be the head coach of Jacksonville to now trying to get a head coach OC job at Notre Dame. So not the best transition. So, all right, Peter Blake, got to let you go now. Great work.
Yes,
Remember,
sir.
Peter Blake, I know you got ladies all over the Pinellas County and Hillsborough County area for Valentine's Day. Keep them at a distance. Keep all your stories straight, and make sure you get them all at least some flowers or some chocolate.
Sounds good, my friend. You do the same thing. You're my tag team partner of the world, so you got to put those ladies over, all right?
Thanks for joining us, Peter Blake. Coming up next, Jim Levitt talking about his Super Bowl 47 coaching experience in New Orleans. And we're also going to talk a little NBA after Coach Lev. So appreciate it. Stick with us, and we'll be right back on the Powers on Sports podcast.